Hi there, welcome to Learning Target. I can solve quadratics using square roots. We're just going to look at some basic problems. The first thing we want to look at is solving equations. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. First, we always use inverse operations to undo the operations we see in the equations. And second, we use the opposite of PEMDAS or SAD-MEP to solve. Alright, so let's look what that means. Let's look at a couple examples. So let's say we have x plus 3 equals 13. So thinking about the fact that we see addition and the opposite or the inverse operation of that is subtraction, so we know we're going to subtract from both sides. So x equals 10. Similarly, if we have x over 5 equals 2, all right, so the operation we see is division. The inverse operation, or what undoes division, is multiplying. So those cancel out. Over here we're going to multiply, so x equals 10. Okay, and finally, if we had something a little bit more complicated, 3 times x minus 1 equals 12. Okay, so thinking about that whole SAD-MEP, so we're going to undo addition, subtraction, multiplication, division before we undo the grouping. Okay, so first I'm going to divide by 3. You could have distributed also, but if this number divides, why not? So I've got x minus 1 equals 4. Now I can add 1. And x equals 5. Okay, so that's just reviewing solving. When you are ready, make sure you keep going, otherwise feel free to pause. And next we're going to review square roots. Okay, so a square root is a number that can be multiplied by itself to give the original number. So, for example, we know that the square root of 49 is 7. Like, that's our answer because 7 times 7 equals 49. Okay, and we know that the square root of 100 is 10 because 10 times 10 equals 100. But this is the answer we want, 10. Okay, so important things to know. We know that 6 times 6 equals 36. But so does negative 6 times negative 6 equal 36. So when we solve for an unknown, like x, when we solve for an unknown x, or any variable, there are always two solutions. Okay, we know that 6 times 6 is 36, but so does negative 6 times negative 6 equal 36. So when we solve for an unknown x, there are always two solutions. So, for example, and I'm going to go on to the next page to write this. So feel free to pause if you need to. For example, solve for x. So if we just have the problem x squared equals 25. Okay, pretty basic one. Okay, so thinking about how we undo squaring, well, the opposite of squaring is square root. It undoes it. So thinking about the fact that 5 times 5 equals 25, but also negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. So when we do the square root in a problem like this, our answer is x equals plus and minus 5. Okay, let's look at another one. So if we have x squared equals 16, so to solve for that, to undo the square ring, I'm going to square root. Okay, and x equals, well, the square root of 16 is 4, but plus and minus 4, because negative 4 times negative 4 is also positive 16. Okay, now these could get a little bit more complicated. If we had like 2x squared equals 18. Okay, so the whole thing isn't being squared, only the x is. So first we have to undo this multiplication here. So to undo multiplying, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So now I have x squared equals 9. Now I can take the square root. And then x equals plus and minus 3. Okay, another example of this is if we had like x squared minus 5 equals 44. Okay, so again, to solve, first I have to undo that sad part, sad mip. So I got to undo the subtraction. So I'm going to add 5. So I've got x squared equals 49. Well, that's great. Take the square root, and x equals plus and minus 7. Now, you could have a number where it doesn't work out quite so nicely, like x squared equals 50. Okay, our tendency here is to do this incorrectly, but if we take the square root of both sides, square root, there's no number that multiplies exactly by itself. So we get a decimal. X equals plus and minus 7.071. Okay, and I'm going to do 3 decimal places after the decimal, and that's fine. Okay, so I want you to try 3 problems. x squared equals 81. Okay, so solve for x. X squared equals 81. X squared plus 2 equals 66. And 2x squared minus 5 equals 40. Okay, bring any questions you have to class. Thank you very much.